I heard about Randonautica back in 2020 during the beginning of the pandemic. I thought it looked interesting and that it might be a good way to get out of the house. Me and my boyfriend tried a couple of times. It took us to some random places but nothing creepy, which was our intention. Fast forward to today, and I'm scrolling Facebook and come across a post about how they found the remains of a missing girl, Candace Fitzpatrick. She went missing in 2008 from Oshawa, Ontario. Her DNA was found in the freezer of Adam Strong, who was also a resident of Oshawa. Candace was never found until November of 2021. I remember seeing on Facebook that the forensic unit was out near my house back in November because remains being found. I had a brief thought about maybe they found Candace, but really didn't think anything else about it. At the news conference, they talked about where her remains were found, and out of curiosity, I decided to check Google Maps and see if it was the same location as a forensic search last November. I was not prepared to find out that it was the same location Randonautica took us to the very first time we tried it. Now I just feel sick. The rando pin was in this small bunch of trees and behind a bunch of newer houses. We parked the truck, walked down the path and off the path trying to get closer to the pin. We ended up giving up because the bush was so thick and we left. I haven't used Randonautica since 2020 because nothing really happened and I thought it was fake, but boy, was I wrong. I downloaded the Randonautica app. Yes, I read the articles and what had happened before I downloaded it. However, I downloaded it on a whim, and I promise you, this isn't one of those made-up stories. This is real. I'm a real female, living in a very rural area. Everyone in this community is tight-knit. If someone looks like they don't belong, it really does stick out. I also have a dog I walk, so I know what type of cars are in my neighborhood. Also, I have to make it clear that I forgot what I set my intentions to because it was so long ago. I think I did something along the lines of fun or weird. I was in my bedroom, and I thought about going alone, but I didn't. It was during the day, so I decided to put the app away since all those stories and people saying not to go alone kept running through my head. And also, I'm easily scared, so I decided I'm not going, but I still looked on Google Maps checking out where this thing wanted me to go because I still wanted to know where it was going to take me. Anyways, like I said, I never went. I took my pup out for a walk all the way down my street. I still had the app downloaded and open. Then, some random guy in a hat was driving his car slowly towards me and my dog. It's a bright and sunny day outside, so I'm not that scared, and I'm also in front of houses. He does a little spin while staring at me, full on. I got such a bad and creepy vibe, but I just stared back at him. My dog was with me, and she's really protective too. Anyways, I never gave it too much thought. I literally just thought while this was happening that it was a little weird. I knew he didn't belong in the area. My entire neighborhood is minority, and he was white. So I went home and never thought about or saw him again. I literally never put two and two together until recently. I started binge watching Randonautica again, and ended up on Reddit, of course. I read a post in the true crime and horror story forum that the app can be misused by hackers and set people up to follow them. Some of the stories did say people show up or follow them, so I'm pretty sure that day if I got in my car and went there, that man would have also been there following me home or something. It still gives me chills, because I remember this happening the day I was going to go, and I thought nothing of it until now. I do believe just like anything in this world, people will misuse it. So just be safe and make sure you carry at least a weapon when you go, even in a group setting. This person could have seen my house or put my family in danger. These past 2 nights, me and my friends decided we were going to go randonauting because of TikTok. Because blatantly, what else would teenagers do at 12:30 after sneaking out of their house? So we all got together and we were ready to focus on our intent. After talking about it, we all decided love would be our first intent. Out of all four of us, no one was really taking it seriously except for me and my best friend of 8 years, Quinn. Anyways, our intention was love, so then we get our destination, and we were all expecting something to do with our partners, our hearts, something like that. To our surprise, it brought our group to the middle school where we first met. We were very touched by this, and got so distracted to the point where we didn't even end up going to the actual point location that was in the backwoods behind the school. All four of us were sitting there. Me and Quinn were hugging, when we heard a high-pitched scream come from the direction of the point where we were supposed to go. Obviously, we all also screamed and booked it to the car. At this rate, we were all kind of spooked, wondering what it could have been. Now the rest of the night was pretty lackluster. We didn't see much except for a bunny rabbit, which wasn't our intentions, but we counted it as a win for the night. Now here's where it gets interesting. Last night, me and Quinn decided to go out together without our other two friends, just to see what would happen or if we could get better results because we were actually taking it seriously. So we were sitting in the car together and we decided to make our intent friendship, something that brings us closer together. With our intent set and our energy as positive as ever, we set out on a ride, talking about all the memories on the way there. It takes us to this point, way far back into the middle of the woods, right behind a lake. There were no places to park, so we have to walk. Now I'm really lazy, and this would have been a long walk, so I decided that we would drive up the road to see if there were any spots. We pull away from the spot where we were going to get out of the car, and another car starts following us. We didn't really think anything of it at first, but we find an empty abandoned parking lot to park at, and we noticed that the car was still on, sitting there when we parked. It wasn't moving, and we were so close to getting out of the car before Quinn noticed that it was still sitting there. Thankfully, we decided we were not going to get out of the car until that car left. A good 15 minutes passed, and nothing changed until we finally see that that car is moving. We were all like, finally. But no, instead of the car leaving, this car turns around and zooms right up on us. When I tell you, I looked this man dead in the eyes and his face was so empty, completely devoid of any emotion, like a soulless person, honestly. It was terrifying. I'm yelling at this point, "Quinn, we need to go right now. Go!" This man gets up in his chair to open the door right as we speed away. Next, we look behind us and we see that the car is still tailing us. He follows us all the way through the neighborhood onto the highway before we lose him. It was terrifying, but it gets worse. Quinn drops me off at my house and I sneak back in. Panicked, I'm kind of shook at this point because I'm just thinking about what would have happened. 5 minutes later, I get a call from Quinn. He sounds panicked and honestly terrified. I can't really understand anything he's saying besides, "I'm being followed again." He proceeded to tell me that another car was tailing him, switching lanes and taking every turn that he was. He was about to call my dad to help him. Apparently this car had followed him since he pulled away from my house, and all the way to his neighborhood when he sped away and lost him. This whole thing was really frightening, but we weren't sure what to do. What correlation it had to the app? What are the chances a scream comes from the point where we were being led? What are the chances that a car is waiting for us at the point we were supposed to go when only the app had our location? What's going on, y'all? It's Thomas with the Horror Dimension here. I just wanted to add this little portion at the end of the video and share with you guys a couple of my personal Randonautica experiences that are more on the creepy, unexplained side. These happened to me back in 2021. At the time, me and my friend were traveling. We were contractors, and we were in Connecticut working in kind of like northern Connecticut at the time. And we were working 12 hours a day, pretty much 6 days a week. So we were super busy, and our downtime, we get off of work at 6 p.m., eat some dinner, and most of the time we just hang out at the hotel. Sometimes we'd get bored and go exploring. And around this time is when Randonautica was, I would say, at its peak. It was really popular. You were always seeing clips on TikTok about people and weird, crazy experiences about people being followed and finding crazy stuff out in the middle of nowhere. And me being into scary shit and creepy stuff, I wanted to test it and see if there was any truth behind it or these videos were fake. I'm sure some of them are fake, but some of them definitely, I would say there's some validity to them. So I downloaded the app one of the nights that we were kind of bored, and we got in my truck and started driving around, giving it a shot. And the first couple of pins that it gave us really didn't amount to anything. I think the first one was behind like some UPS facility or FedEx facility or something like that. And it was just like right in the parking lot. There was nothing in there. The second one after that was in like this suburban neighborhood, I guess you could call it. Once again, didn't amount to anything. At this point, we were going to chalk it up to a bust, and none of our 2 pins really amounted to anything. But we wanted to give it one more shot before we turned in for the night. So we set our intent. I don't remember exactly what our intents were, but it was along the lines of creepy or scary or something like that. Me being the horror buff I am and always seeking that thrill of just creepy stuff. And our next pin actually generated a couple miles away from us, and it looked like it was in the woods. So we drive and we get to as close as we can to the pin, and we ended up having to park in a retirement home, like parking lot, I guess is the best way to sum it up. And to give you guys like the best visual I can, it was this big, probably 2 or 3 story retirement home, but it was pretty spread out, and it had this big parking lot, and then behind it was just a tree line and then just woods for miles. And I tried to pull it up on the maps and just see like how far the woods went on, and they went on for a good minute, and the pin was actually probably a couple miles back into the woods. So we parked and we got out and we were looking around because we were kind of paranoid that people were going to be wondering what the hell we were doing. But anyway, we adventured off into the woods, and it was just really dense woods. I mean, woods, especially at nighttime, the sun had just set, so it already had kind of a creepy vibe to it. But as we're adventuring further and further into the woods, we start seeing stuff like on the ground, just like a bunch of old, almost like antiques is the best way I can describe it. And at this point, there was a barbed wire fence, probably about 8 to 10 feet tall. It just went on for as far as we could see on each side. And then it had barbed wire along the top of it. We didn't see any no trespassing signs. There was no signs on the fence. And ironically enough, there was a hole like cut in the center of the fence, like where somebody could fit through perfectly. Not just like barely, but like a good hole that somebody could fit through. So we end up walking through. I had to convince my friend Patrick a little bit because he was a little freaked out. He doesn't enjoy scary stuff as much as I do. But anyways, we get through the fence and begin walking, probably for another, like, I would say football field distance, maybe a little bit longer. And then we started seeing even more kind of weird stuff. There was like old couches, old car parts. And at one point there was an actual like old car, like an old truck, I would say from the 70s maybe. It was definitely old. As we're adventuring further and further back, it was just like more stuff started like showing up on the ground, and you could tell it had been there for a while because like the grass and the trees and the leaves were all covering it and grown up around it, stuff that hadn't been touched in a while. And the only flashlight we had was the ones on our phones, so we didn't have the best visibility. And then as we're getting further and further back, we start to hear like noises. It almost sounded like people and yelling, and that's the best way I can describe it. But at this point, we were starting to get a little creeped out because as we were adventuring further and further back into the woods, it started to get louder and louder, like we were getting closer to this. So at this point, my friend Patrick, he was checked out. He didn't want to go any further. So we ended up turning back around, walked back through the hole in the fence, got back to the truck, and we're like that was kind of fucking weird. Like what are the odds? Like you adventure out of the woods, there's a random chain link barbed wire fence that just spans on for as far as we could see, and then a bunch of old rundown vehicle parts, couches, refrigerators. I don't even know. It almost looked like a dumping ground, but not like an actual physical dump. Like it was just like a bunch of stuff just scattered throughout the woods that had been there for a while. And then to hear noises off in the distance was definitely off-putting. So once we make it back to the truck, we were both kind of creeped out, but kind of amped up because like we finally got a pin that was like amounted to something. So we generate another pin. Literally the next pin after this led us to a graveyard. And the pin, once again, was off in the woods. This graveyard was just a couple miles down the road, but the graveyard was sitting up against, once again, a tree line that had woods that just went on for, it seemed like forever. So we get out of my truck, and as we're walking to the tree line, I had locked my truck, and I don't know if any of you guys have Toyotas, but Toyotas have a very specific locking and unlocking beep sound. So as I'm walking away from the truck, I lock it, I hear the beep sound, didn't think anything of it. As soon as we get to the tree line, maybe a couple 100 feet away, my truck just randomly unlocks, makes the beep sound like it's unlocking, the lights flash, but my keys were in my pocket the whole time. I didn't touch my keys. We look at each other, both kind of creeped out at this point, but we thought, fuck it, we made it this far, we'll do one more pin, we'll call it a night. And at this time, the forest that we were adventuring into actually had like a little like hiking trail pathway type thing, probably about like 3 feet wide, but it was clear that people walk on it quite a bit. Once again, we're adventuring out into the woods. And as we're getting further and further into the woods again, we start hearing people again, like yelling and making a bunch of weird noises. We're like, what the fuck? Like it almost sounded like the same noises that we heard in the other part of the woods. I don't know if these woods were connected. Like I said, it was a couple miles away. I don't really know. And we keep walking further and further into the woods, and then it sounded like footsteps around us, like people were like walking around us. And once again, all we had were our lights on our phones, on our iPhones, so they only lit up so much. But it sounded like someone was like walking around us and then would like stop when we stopped, is the best way I can describe it. Without being equipped with any better flashlights or anything else, once again, my friend Patrick got a little creeped out. I was even a little creeped out by this point because it just seemed very, very off-putting, especially because it sounded like we were being followed in the woods. So we turned around. We definitely walked a little faster back to the truck than we did walking out there. And at that point, we decided to call it a night. I closed out the app. We went back to the hotel. Nothing else happened at that point. So that was my experience in Connecticut. And fast forward a couple weeks later, we had finished working that job and we were working at a job in North Carolina. And on the weekends, when we'd have a day off, once again, we'd be working. This time we were working 13 days on, 1 or 2 days off. And we'd go up to Virginia and visit with one of my other buddies. And we'd stay there just to get out of staying in a hotel. And I've actually featured this one friend on this channel way back in the day. There was some vlogs where we went to Tombstone and even a little documentary at this Civil War era house that he actually lives in. I forgot how long ago I posted these videos, but it's been years ago. So anyway, after those Randonautica experiences in Connecticut, we were like, hey, we should try here in Virginia because it's rural Appalachia and a bunch of creepy shit. Beautiful, beautiful place, but at nighttime, it tends to get a little creepy. So after some convincing, because my one friend, Alex, the one that lives in Virginia, he's a bit of a skeptic when it comes to anything paranormal or creepy. But it kind of evens out the mood a little bit because, like, I want to believe, I want to get involved in the creepy stuff, whether it be paranormal or not. But he kind of, brings everybody back to reality and kind of is a skeptic. Sometimes it's annoying, but it kind of evens out the group. So one night we pulled up the app and we went to a couple of pins and it was very anticlimactic. Every single pin that we went to that night, I want to say we went to 5 or 6 of them and none of them led to anything interesting basically at all. So we head back to his place. And at this point, it was probably midnight. We get back to his place and we're hanging out on his porch. And to give you guys a visual, it's a big porch. I mean, like I said, the house is from the 1800s. It's a huge porch, and it just kind of overlooks a bunch of farmland. And there's a couple of farmhouses nearby, but like not close. They're not close neighbors. You can just see them off in the distance. Where you sit on the porch, off to the right, probably a couple of football fields away, there's an old church and then a big parking lot around the church. And as we're sitting there, we're just enjoying the night, drinking some beer, talking, sitting on the porch, listening to music. A car pulls up, an old, raggedy ass, I don't even know what type of model it was, but it was a older car. It pulls up to the church parking lot, facing our direction, with the light on inside the car. And I could kind of see far enough to make out that it was a guy in there, and he had on a red hoodie. And the hoodie was pulled up over his head, but I could make out that it was most likely a guy, because it was a bigger guy. So instantly we all kind of looked at each other and we're like, that's kind of weird. Like, it's, at this point, it was probably maybe 1 or 2 in the morning. I don't know to be exact, but people don't just randomly pull in that church parking lot that late at night, especially with the hoodie on when it's May. At this point, it was May outside, so it was already a little warm, and we're kind of like, oh, that's unsettling, but we just kind of chalk it up to a coincidence, and we sit there and talk. But the whole time I'm watching the car, watching the guy, and he eventually shuts his light off on the inside, but he's just sitting there. And he sat there for a good 30, 45 minutes. And then I start thinking, oh, we were at randonauting, and I remember hearing these stories about people being followed. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I opened my phone and I realized I never close out the Randonautica app. I don't know if there's any truth behind this, but I had heard that if you don't close out the app, you can be followed. But that dude in the car sat there the whole time, just like watching us on the porch. Me and my other friend Patrick, we kind of wanted to go over there and see what the deal was, see if the guy needed help or what the issue was, but something just wasn't right. But my friend Alex, the skeptic, ironically enough, he tried to wrangle us up to go inside, because even he was getting freaked out at this point. So we go inside, and we felt pretty safe on the inside of the house because we had things to protect us. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get flagged from YouTube or anything from saying anything too detailed, but we watched out the window for a while, and then eventually me and my buddy Patrick were like, fuck this. Like, let's see if we can get a little closer or like creep up on the guy. So we go out into the yard and kind of lay low and follow the bushes line, because there was a bunch of bushes in the front of my friend's yard, and we try to get closer and closer to the vehicle. But as we get closer, I don't know if he saw us. I don't know if we were bad with sneaking up on him or what, but the dude just takes off in his car, and that was the end of that. Like I said, I don't know if it was a coincidence. I don't know if we were followed. I can't say for sure, and I'm not going to say for sure. I don't want to lie to you guys. It was definitely unsettling, to say the least. And after that, I never really dabbled with Randonautica again. But since this particular video is a Randonautica theme video, I thought it would be a good opportunity to share these stories with you guys, my own personal stories. I didn't write any of this out. I'm just telling you like I would tell it around a campfire. But everything in the stories that I did tell you guys was true, actually happened. I didn't add or take anything out. But if you guys have any feedback on any of those experiences, be sure to let me know in the comments what your opinions are about it, or if you guys have ever had any weird experiences using the Randonautica app, or if you guys have used the app at all. And one thing I wanted to add before I close out the video, would you guys be interested in me doing some Randonautica videos, exploring actual physical content, making, videos of me going out and finding pins? Obviously, probably going to bring someone with me. In Arizona, where I'm at currently, there's all kinds of open desert, all kinds of places where we could adventure, and I don't know, maybe find something cool, maybe find something scary. Are those videos that you guys might be interested in? And maybe down the road, I might dabble in some other things outside of Randonautica, other exploration videos, other documentary style videos. I got a couple of places that I want to go to around the United States. I'm not going to spoil it right now, but I have a couple of places in mind that over the next year I want to travel to and make some really good content for the channel and kind of switch things up a little bit. I will always stick to my horror narrations, the true scary stories. That's the bread and butter of this channel. But I just wanted to come on here and ask my loyal subscribers that have been with me throughout the years, that support this channel, that's helped this channel grow to what it is, and ask you guys what you guys would think about that type of content. Like I said, obviously I would still come out with scary stories and things like that and the narrations, but would you guys enjoy that type of content? Also, I wanted to add, thank you guys for sticking around. I know I had been away from YouTube for a long time, but finally got to the point in my life where I can come back and make content again. I really, really enjoy making content. I love reading these stories and putting out the videos for you guys. It definitely means a lot to me that a lot of you guys stuck around. When you guys comment, especially a lot of you guys that have been around for a while, I noticed the names in the comments, especially when I came back and started posting again. And I was just, it meant a lot to me. So thank you guys. Thank each and every one of you guys so much. Thank you for supporting the channel. And like always, feel free to comment any future video suggestions you have down below, like the videos and share them. And thank you guys for watching the video.